podcast for geeks. This will be a recap of the last episode of The Mandalorian. So you have not caught up, stop watching right now because this will be spoiler heavy. I'm going to warn you guys one more time. If you haven't watched the last episode of Mandalorian or you haven't finished the show, stop watching right now because we will be talking and spoiling the show for you. Cool. All right. And we do have a third guest, and he will maybe join us at some point. I think he forgot his coffee. So my guests here are Andrew Sides, Carrie Drake, and Andrew Thompson whenever he decides to jump in. Welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for joining me on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, no problem.
I feel like Andrew's going to be the most controversial guest on the show.
I'm not going to be the most controversial.
No, I want that though, because like you and I talk a lot about movies and science fiction and all that stuff in our other chat, and we're constantly we're not butting heads, but we definitely have a big difference in opinions on a lot of things, which is I think leads to a healthy conversation, because if everyone just agrees to everything, it's like, cool. I mean,
I think my friends often ask me, why don't you like things?
Yeah, I ask you that all the time because we'll be talking about something and he'll just be like, I don't like that. And I'll be like, why? It was like, it's so good, but like I tell you guys all the time in our group chats, like I'm like a little bit easy to please. Like I just love seeing the new things, right? So like, with Mandalorian, people were mad with. So let's just talk about. I was gonna talk about the CG work they did on Luke, right? People were super mad about that. I kind of looked past that because I was just super excited to see fucking Luke Skywalker. You know, like
it wasn't too bad. It wasn't it wasn't far off for me from like how Rogue One was, at least for like Leia's thing.
Yeah.
Grand Moff Tarkin was basically like a whole cartoon character to me, but at least how Luke looked for that, he looked about comparable to me for like as Leia, who I thought was the better of the two in that movie.
Yes,
but it was also the kind of thing where it looked fine as long as he was still, and the minute he started moving, it got weird. But even then, that's not really a huge.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
It's not a huge quibble. Like, it's not a huge quibble in terms of like taking me out of the scene, because it's kind of like I just saw a bunch of people fight like droids and use laser swords and shit. Like, I already have enough buy-in on this that it's just something kind of slide through. I have larger issues with them trying that overall, but that's not really tied to the episode itself.
I think people were also like, there was online. Yeah, I said it right. On social media and online, there was a whole push for them to use Sebastian Stan, who plays the Winter Soldier. They should have. I get it, because Disney, like you said it, I think you said it in the chat, Disney already owns him because he's part of the Marvel machine, right?
Yeah.
And they could have just brought him in for like a quick, what we consider to be a quick scene probably takes them weeks to film. And that dude was working on Winter Soldier. My best guess is he's so busy they couldn't bring him in. But I understand they should have.
The side of that is like when, what was it, WB's like Flash series or whatever, when they had Ezra Miller come in to do like a quick cameo for their Flash season finale.
Yes, yeah.
They don't even, like, they barely own Ezra Miller. They have him on like some certain things, but it's still, he's kind of in flux compared to Sebastian Stan, who's kind of more solidly within Disney's thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And WB was able to make that happen, where they were able to pull him in aside and be like, hey, we need you for like all of 5 minutes or something to shoot this real quick.
I mean, there's also, it's possible he wanted more money. I don't know.
Yeah, there may have been things. I mean, there's always something else that.
And he could have been like, too. He could have said no. I mean, they could have. I mean, I had a thought about it later, which was at the end of the day, they could have just cast somebody to play a young Luke, but the CG wasn't that bad. There was a little bit of like a haze around his face, I guess, but
for me, it was mostly the hair. The hair looked the weirdest.
Yeah,
it was so like I didn't even like go into that until I watched it for the third time. So the first time I was just so like you see that X-Wing pull in and you're like, You're like, oh, it's about to go down, you know, and then you
And then
see the green lightsaber, and you're like, okay, this could be any Jedi. It's just a green lightsaber. But then you see his hand, and you're like,
the glove, dude.
The gloved hand. You're like, oh, this is Luke, you know.
Yeah. Well, so that in every episode there is a moment in there where I'm no longer sitting back on the couch.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
like that.
exactly.
So the X-wing pulls in. We see the robe, and I'm like, no. And then the green lightsaber is like, yes. The glove, yes. But then when I saw that face, dude, I gotta tell you, I was having all the feels, all the fan service, just exactly. They had me where they wanted me, and then I saw that face, and I gotta tell you, it stepped me back a couple of paces.
Step you back a minute, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious. I would like to.
Face, I was really hoping that they would lift the hood and it would be an actor. That's really what I was hoping.
Because we would have been fine with that, right? If anyone that kind of looked like him showed up,
some birthday party lookalike, I don't care. But that whatever that face-off app or what what do they call that app where they replace your face?
Yeah, you're talking. It's called Deepfakes. Like to me. It's called Deepfakes.
Yeah, Deepfakes.
It is exactly what it looked like.
It just looked like Deepface. Or Deepfake or whatever.
It would, yeah. I mean, I would like to see, how they did a thing for season 1, like the making of, and they sat down like a round table, and they
so good.
It was, if you haven't seen that, you guys should absolutely watch that. But I
Disney
feel like,
Archive is what it's called.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And
Archive.
I'm hoping. I think it's called Disney Archive. It's very specific to the Mandalorian one though, because you get to hear why they did some. That's where you get to learn about how they shot a lot of those scenes. A lot of those outdoor scenes are indoors. They just look amazingly outdoors. But I would like to hear about why they went CG versus a body double.
I think they said they were going to have something coming soon for that.
I mean, and then we'll all be like, oh.
I caught on this article like in one of the recaps of Mandalorian. It's like, oh, okay, neat, because I did like the behind the scenes on the first one.
Yeah.
That was the main reason I started watching it overall, is because I was very curious to see how they call that that basically that giant LED thing that they use. They call it the volume. I was very curious to see that in action, because I had seen like certain promotional things that Unreal has been doing with it, because it's kind of running off of the Unreal Engine, or they're using it to kind of fill in the backgrounds pre-production, or during production, and then they tidied up with higher resolution models afterwards. That was more or less the reason I started watching the show, because I was really curious to see how often that tech would be employed.
I mean, that tech was amazing, and I like the tech they're using with the giant screens.
Yeah,
like,
that's
it. Okay.
Yeah.
That blew my mind, because you can't really tell.
Of his mirror finish, armor.
Yeah, they had a very rudimentary version of it in I don't know if either of you had ever seen the Tom Cruise movie Oblivion.
Yeah. They use that for there?
Yeah, they used it in all the scenes where he's up in his hidey hole in the sky, his little base in the sky. Because they said, because there's so much glass and metal finishes and like high polish finishes within that scene. Basically, it was kind of like, if we were to green screen this, having to fix all that in post would be an utter nightmare. Because it's not just a matter of like replacing the sky. It's a matter of, anywhere there's a reflection, you're obviously going to get like a green reflection from the green screen, which means you then have to cut that out and then replace it with a sky and all that. So they ended up building, at the time, I don't remember if it was LEDs. I don't think it was at the time. It was maybe like a rear projection or something like that. But they had a giant wall around the whole thing that basically showed off this sky throughout it. So that way they were able to capture real reflections and do very minimal post work as a result.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably saves them so much money, and I'm sure it's not that hard to set up and rig. So
it's weird. I've heard like conflicting things. Like one hand, I've heard where people have said that it's not. It is easier, and then other people I've heard have said that it's pretty much. It's this amount of pain in the ass. It's just a different pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Andrew Thompson has decided to join us.
Hi.
I was up late doing my homework, aka watching my 2 episodes that I had to catch up on.
He was like, I'm 2 episodes behind. I'm like, you probably want to watch those before you join, because we were talking about the CG work on Luke and how I guess I'm half and half on it. Carrie is definitely not having it.
I don't care for it.
It was short enough. I mean,
the stuff on Twitter, it felt a lot like most people who are like myself. I think a lot of the Star Wars fans were just happy to see it. We're just like, cool, man. That's the way. If that's what I get. I mean, you could have put a full CG character in there, and I would have been like, Luke, like, because that's me, right? But it's the same thing with like. We were talking about this, I think, Carrie, you and I, when we did the last episode with us. Did we talk about Ahsoka? I don't remember if we did an Ahsoka episode.
We did. We did an Ahsoka episode,
Because when we were talking about the Ahsoka one, we were talking about how people were upset that her Montrails were not as long as they should have been. And if you research it, you could the stunt people literally said we couldn't make them longer because it required getting in the way of the stunt person. And then people were like, why'd you just CG it? But it's like, yo, the show's on a budget. So if you want to keep seeing an awesome show, you don't want them wasting their money just to make 2 tentacles longer for you guys.
We have to wait long enough as it is.
Right. It's a massive pain in the ass too then, because you figure you have to rotoscope where those are in every scene. It's basically like doing a third, or it's basically doing a second and third lightsaber.
Yep.
As a result, like it's more or less kind of the same sort of deal.
And it's not that I didn't even notice, like, honestly.
No, it's
until somebody pointed it out, and then I was like,
really?
Yeah, people were like all over the internet complaining.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
these were also the same people probably that were complaining about Fett, which is dumb.
You and I were talking about this the other day about how Star Wars fanboys and probably fangirls, I don't know how many there are, but how the fandom it's always divided, right? Like there's that. And I think the majority are the people that are genuinely happy that they're just getting something Star Wars, right? And then the minority are the people that are just like, I'm going to reshoot The Last Jedi from beginning to end because it was a piece of garbage. And my favorite comment on that group, they set up a whole thing trying to get money to reshoot that movie. My favorite comment on that was Ryan Johnson. Or is it Ryan Johnson? Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson.
Right. Ryan Johnson saying, I'd like to see this. Like, he literally was like, I will give some money.
What's that? Trying to get made where it was basically The Last Jedi, just all the women parts were cut out.
Pretty much. They were like, they were super angry that the major lead characters all became women. Yeah. They thought they.
I'm not sure if it was that or if it was another bullshit.
No, that's the one, and people were just so upset by it. They were just like, this group put together like a GoFundMe or something and started collecting money to reshoot the whole movie, and it's like, are you guys crazy?
Yes,
like,
they are.
Yeah, I mean,
just move past
pretty
it.
much.
And that's, I guarantee you, I haven't looked at any of the new Mandalorian updates because I want, like I said, I watched this last episode 3 times, because I know for a fact somebody's picking it apart at a level that's gonna just irritate me, you know.
At that scale, well, I mean, if they're picking it apart that much, though, it's that's kind of point where it's like it's clearly not going to appeal to you. Why are you watching it then?
Right.
Yeah.
Like at least for me, like overall, like I thought the second season was much stronger than the first. Like the first season, I really only liked like the first 2 episodes and the last 2 episodes. The rest of it, I can kind of cut out, and I'd be fine with like this nice.
It's like watching. It's like X-Files, where they have the little filler episodes.
Yeah. At least like with the filler episodes on the first one, I was kind of like, this is dumb or superfluous, or it just didn't jive with me. And like really the end point and the beginning points were the bigger, stronger points for me that I liked a lot. And this one overall, like it was more even keeled. It wasn't like as much of a rough ride as the first one for me. I don't know if that was because
I think it's because he's on a mission.
Sorry?
Yeah.
He has a mission in this one. He knows what he's trying to achieve.
Yeah,
it's kind of a unifying thread through the whole season.
Throughout the whole thing. Really, like for me at least, like as opposed to you guys, when I saw the X-wing, my reaction was, "Oh no!"
Really?
Yes.
Why? You didn't want to see Luke come back?
No, I absolutely don't. Like,
okay.
I have
so this is
the larger criticism I have is I feel Star Wars is an incredibly at least like how it's been done so far, I feel it's been a very limited universe. Kind of like it's a very wide open pond that's like an inch thick, and it seems to be that like when you think about all the media they've made, it constantly ties back to the major players.
Yeah.
And that's fine every once in a while, but every single one they do, it always ties back to one of the main players in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the one thing I enjoyed about The Mandalorian for a long while of it was it pretty much was avoiding that. There were like fan service call outs, you know, with I wasn't one that really followed the Clone Wars or Rebels or whatever. So like seeing someone like Bo-Katan or Ashoka didn't have the same reaction for me as you guys would.
Yeah.
And to me, that was just like, oh, that's neat. That's an interesting person. But even then, like to me, those characters still aren't like. That's not like bringing in a Skywalker. You bring in a Skywalker, and it's like, okay, yeah, everyone knows everyone. It's 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon in here.
Yeah. It's kind of like if your favorite band on every album put one of their greatest hits on every album. You know what I mean? And so
that's what they try.
I feel that too a little bit.
And story wise, I understand it. When I thought about more like, yeah, he's the most expected choice. It makes the most sense within the time frame and everything that, yeah, it's likely him. I think it cheapens how expansive the universe could be, though, by just like we got to wheel him in, we got to wheel in Luke, and there he is. And all right, now Mandalorian knows Luke, or has met him at some point or another. And Boba Fett and Luke didn't say, like, you'd figure, like, maybe Luke would be like, didn't we kill you?
Well, Fett wasn't there.
Yeah, he wasn't there, remember? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's sorry. Yeah, sorry.
But,
yeah, sorry.
I get what you're saying with because I'm going to say this in 2 parts. First part is, like, Luke is technically, as far as we know, the strongest Jedi alive at the moment.
Yeah.
But, you know, the reason in The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson got rid of his character was because he had the same thought process you did and the same thought process I did, which was you need to move away from a Skywalker storyline into the next generation because there is a vast universe out there. And they almost got it, except, you know, and the last movie where she named herself
like,
Skywalker.
Honestly, you figure, what is it, 8 episodes and roughly 7.5 hours of television, and 7 hours and 25 minutes of that you avoided it. And
I honestly don't know who else they would have put in there.
Yeah, it is.
They could have just had Ahsoka show up again and save him, I guess, and that would have been just as cool. But I feel like I think they want to give you a little bit of that fan service they want to give you a little bit of that fan service into what's going to happen to Luke, right? Because at this moment he's still very much like the Force is everything. Like this is the only path that you can take. But then when you meet him 30 years from this moment, or 25 years from this moment, he's going to be like, fuck the Force. You know?
It all needs to burn down.
Yeah. And so you're going to see, you get to, I mean, I don't know if they're going to show more of him later. If they do plan on it, they definitely should cast a stunt double or body double. Because people are going to rage if they keep doing the CG stuff. One of my friends was joking with me saying, Grogu and Kylo are going to be roommates.
I do wonder about that. Like,
so I had to research that. Kylo was born 1 year after Return of the Jedi. So by the time
is it 1 year, or I thought
Mandalorian is 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and Force Awakens is 30 years after. So when you meet Kylo for the first time in Force Awakens, he's 30 years old.
All right.
He is 1 year. He's born 1 year after Jedi, so he'd be 29, I guess. No, he's 30. I'm right. He's born 1 year after Jedi, and so he is alive in this as a kid. In this, he's Ben Solo in this timeline. So it is possible that Luke's gonna take Grogu to the Jedi Temple, and this brat is gonna be there too.
All I'm imagining is like we all know how Grogu's story ended, and it's in the flames of that temple.
Yeah, that's what my friend was saying. He's like, Kylo's gonna end his life in that temple, and I'm just like, ooh. I was like, I want to really hope he got out of there before all that stuff went
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're probably gonna have it be like he'll go away if they do. All right, real quick, do you think that the Book of Boba Fett thing is that going to be like the next season of Mandalorian? Do
So
you
they
think
are
that's
no,
It's
a
its
whole
own series.
show. It's its own series. They already started filming it.
Oh, they confirmed that it is its
Star Wars
own.
has like 10 or
There's
12 series coming out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I remember they had a shit ton that they were talking about.
So the Book of Fett is part of that series.
One just because I was like, oh, like when they said the Book of Boba Fett thing at the end, I was like, oh, that'd be interesting if they were kind of doing like a kind of like how Fargo does, where it's like a vignette every seasons or whatever of like different characters, and maybe some of them interact in some way or whatever. I thought like, oh, maybe the next couple seasons we'll get like Boba Fett, and then after that it'll be like.
No, he's getting his own side series. My guess is he'll still incorporate somewhere,
probably
in there.
Okay.
We do want to talk about a happy actor right there.
That dude is like,
Tamara,
back baby.
He's got to be over the moon. Yeah.
I had to look him up because I was trying to figure out like what else have I seen him in, because his voice was very familiar, obviously, because he's
the
like
dad of Moana. Because
he's
I
the dad
hear
of Moana.
not...
Yeah, 'cause I hear. Yeah, Andrew knows my pain. We hear that song all day long in our houses. You know?
Wait, what? He's
the dad in Moana.
Huh.
The guy who plays
I
Boba
didn't
Fett,
know that.
the actor who plays Boba Fett,
Oh,
is
he
the
is?
voice of the father in Moana. Yeah. Yeah, that thought's never gonna go away next time you hear it.
I only put it together just because I watched that movie with my daughter like 400 times now, and
like
at some point I was like, man. God, that voice sounds familiar. Oh,
Aquaman.
That's the Clone Wars.
He's an Aquaman, yes.
Aquaman. I was last night
yeah,
in my
he's
brain.
an
I was like, I
Aquaman,
remember
too.
seeing him by the waterside. What was that? Aquaman. It just occurred to me just now.
By the waterside.
But you know what I'm talking about.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Or something.
Again, I had to look it all up because I was just like, this guy's got a because he doesn't look like the younger version that we saw him as Jango Fett, right? He's obviously older. And that's the other thing people are complaining about. They're like, oh, Fett put on some weight. I'm like, yo, he survived the Sarlacc. He's been living on a desert planet for 5 fucking years.
Something, yeah.
Give him some props, man.
Yeah, for real.
Oh yeah.
And they can only complain about. I'm like, you had no problem with a giant infantry trooper that looked like a football player, bulked up football player, but this guy has to be streamlined for you guys all day. Get the fuck out of here.
The people that complain about that stuff are the people who are in way worse shape than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a hot take.
What else has Tamura? What else did Tamura Morrison work on besides Attack of the Clones and this and Moana and Aquaman? Because that's like the only stuff I know him from.
I'd have to look it up. We would have to do a Google search on that.
But I'm glad he's getting his own series because I like that actor. He's got a great face, a great voice, and I'm happy that he's getting some work, and I'm gonna get to see some more of him.
Well, I heard they're gonna do some. So this is all speculation and rumor. Obviously, no one knows what the script is, but they're supposed to do a little bit of his backstory to show you how he goes from. Because if you watch the Clone Wars, you know a little bit of Jango's, a little bit of Boba's story when he tries to get revenge on the Jedis, and then he becomes one of the the cadets or the kids, and then he kind of changes, but not 100%. Right? He tries plenty of times to kill the Jedi, at least a dozen, until he just goes off on his own as a bounty hunter. But nobody knows all the stories, and you know some of the stuff that you've read in the books, you know some of the comic books that you've read about him, but nobody knows all his stories because he's literally, his title is the most notorious bounty hunter in the galaxy. Like, he earned that title. People hear his name, they're like, oh crap, Fett's coming for me, right?
That'd be interesting.
So they're kind of going to show you some of that, is what they're saying, which I feel like then they cast a young actor to play a young Boba Fett. I forget his name. It was on Twitter. So
how young? Like just in his 20s?
In his 20s, yeah, 20s.
Okay. So like prime working age for him.
Because I think you have to show him growing, just like you see the Mandalorian growing, like you see Din growing as a individual. So Fett's gonna become. I mean, Fett doesn't take shit from no one. You saw it in the last episode where they're like, you don't deserve that armor, and he's like, this is my father's armor, and you know, And she's like, I've heard your voices 1,000 times. And he's
Yeah,
like,
oh yeah, I love that line.
You know what? Going back to like fan service and stuff, that was probably one of the better instances where I was like, this is fan service that works for me. Is because like in the movies, Boba Fett gets sucker punched into a star like that. You never see him in action.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see him actually get utilized and actually kind of prove his bona fides.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was just happy to see him in action, see him flying that ship. You see so much of the Slave One in action. I'm like, this is amazing.
That's what we've wanted for 30 some odd years.
Fan service works for me where it's like, especially for a character like that where he was pretty much a cipher in the movies, so it's kind of like, I haven't really seen the extent of him yet. So
he was an accidental hero.
Yeah. So like seeing him in this is like, oh cool, this works for me. Whereas like I've seen Luke do shit tons of times at this point. I don't need to see more of Luke.
Right.
I already know where Luke's going with this. I don't need to see him on this.
Well, the thing is with like characters like Vader. So if you look at like Empire when they first introduced Fett, right? You got all these bounty hunters. They don't really talk about them as often. And you have Vader. He doesn't have a cool, like, he's just the Dark Lord of the Sith. But that's a name that we know from reading comics and books. They never refer to him that way. But you see the way people react when they hear the name Boba Fett in that movie. You know, Boba Fett, you know, like.
Yeah.
And so the fans are like, that guy's got to be a badass, you know? And, like, his name is known throughout the universe. So you want to learn more about him. So he became this. I call him an accidental hero because he was never supposed to be as big a character as he is. But there you have it, right? He's cool. And then you create this whole lore behind him, the Mandalorians, right? And you have and then you create clans, and then you create this, like, there's a whole society based on, and you hear about it in this season. What I liked about it was you got Bo-Katan talking about how there's multiple clans, and each clan has their own, like, rules and policies and laws that they abide by. But if you're from Mandalore is like the all-encompassing, don't come here if you don't want to follow rules, basically, right? And you see that because, like, she's telling him, you could take your helmet off, but you're part of the Death Watch or whatever, right? And you guys were what's the
turns out Mandalorian's part of Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, turns out they just create their own organizations when they want to, you know, and it feels like Fett was also part of the Death Watch, right? Because you know,
was he or
his Jango's armor was given to him by
he said that he was a foundling, but I took that to mean like, oh, I was also adopted.
Well, remember where he shows you that list of names?
I didn't think that to mean he was the same clan.
I think he was part of the Death. It's in this list of names. Like the first name was the guy who what's his name? Priz Vaz? The guy who had the dark saber. Oh, you haven't seen the Clone Wars. So what I'm saying makes no sense to you. So the main leader of the Death Watch that Bo-Katan was part of, the original group, there's a head dude, I can't remember his name. I want to say it's Priz Vaz, but he wielded the dark saber. And what I can tell from the story that Boba Fett shows in the timeline, and his name's on his wrist.
You gotta fight for it.
Yeah, you gotta fight for it. He did fight for it and win it. But that dude gifted Jango his armor and made him a Mandalorian basically by doing that, right? He was part of that family. Foundlings, you know, yes. But then that armor was handed down to Boba Fett when, you know, obviously he changed the colors on it, but that's his dad's armor. And that's why he was like, I want my armor back. It's Beskar, you know?
Yeah.
And then I forgot about that part with the Darksaber, that you had to win it by combat when he was like, take it. And she's like, I can't. Because that's her moral code.
Yeah.
I was like, I would have been like, cool, let's just fight for it. You know, like, oops, you won. You know, like, like, I don't want this responsibility.
That was when it was when they first started going into that. I was kind of like, this is dragging off me. Like, I don't need that whole exposition part. I was like, this feels a little clunky or whatever. But I do like that Mandalorian was just like, I don't care. I yield. Take it.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to deal with this at all. I'm just here for the kid. Get the fuck out.
Yeah. We've watched the tradition, his religion, just sort of fall away through the course of this, and you know, the big scene at the end where he pulls that helmet off in front of everybody. You know, so we've watched him change, and this is just another symptom of that change. He doesn't care about that tradition. Here, just take it. You just get rid of it. Past this foolishness.
Right.
So I really love.
He doesn't even know what it is,
of
right?
Growth. Right.
He's literally like, I don't know what this is, and like, cause like, he knows of the Jedi. He's never seen a Jedi until that moment.
Yeah.
So to him, it's like, big deal. Oh, Luke Skywalker. Like, like, he doesn't know. Dude, by the way, I thought it was badass when Luke crushed that one Dark Trooper, just bringing his head in. I'm like, that is a Vader move right there.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Dark Troopers, I kind of hate their design. Yeah. I hate the eyes.
They're supposed to be. Aren't they supposed to be people?
It looks like a little kid was like, "Well, this is what a mean robot looks like."
Yeah, I kind of wish they didn't have that like super boxy proportion, because they do look like a Rock'em Sock'em robot.
Yeah. That's exactly what they look like.
and then I feel like they had that design, like a little kid was like, "This is what a bad robot looks like," and then Jon Favreau was like, "Okay, let's fuse that with Iron Man. Okay, here we go."
So the Rock'em Sock'em comment, I thought that when there's the scene where Luke walks down, he's in the hallway fighting them all. There's one where he force pushes him, and you see its head go straight back. And I was like, I was like, anyone catch that? But yeah, Andrew, I agree with you. Like, I think I'm trying to remember, they were originally in a video game, and I think they show up in the comic book.
I was gonna ask, like, has anyone else played Dark Forces?
That's what it was, Dark Forces.
Yeah. Because I was trying to remember. I should have looked it up beforehand.
Are they robots in that?
I remember they were in that, and I think they were like genetically modified humans.
Yes, that's what
they refer to that in the episode.
I think that they didn't work right when they tried that.
The geneticist was like, we had to solve the problem to basically get the people out of the robot.
Right? Yeah, he said they were like the third generation,
and I think they did that on purpose because then you have like where they're like, there's no life signs. Like when they're like, something's coming back into the ship. What is it? There's no life signs. You're like, oh shit! You can't just flush them out into space, you morons.
Yeah.
Why did I think that was gonna work?
Did it take them a little too long to get back on board? They should have been back on board within a minute.
I mean, they were probably like, they're in the cold of space, and they were cold in the container. This is my theory. They were cold in that container, which made them deactivate, and the dead space is cold, so it took them a minute to get back to get their shit together, basically. Which again, they should never have reactivated. That's the point. They're on the cold, dead space, not dead air, dead space.
Yeah.
So like they should never have reactivated out there. But then we wouldn't have a show if they didn't, and then we'd have Luke show up and bust
stuff
ass.
Like that to just glaze over because
these are things you think about by the third viewing. That's what I'm trying to, like, you don't think about that in the initial moment because you're just excited to get. They're not giving us a ton of stuff that we've read about or seen in games and read about in books and comics. They're giving us like a dash here and a dash there, which I think is
it's usually really the right amount. It's
and I think that's how you handle it.
Gas on the pedal.
I mean, that's the beauty of doing a show, right? You can do that and like cut away from it and say, maybe we'll come back to this. Like they gave us a whole Ahsoka Tano episode, and people were like, "Oh, she'll be back," and fanboys were, or anyone who like read up on it too much was like, "Nah, not this season."
Well, what was it? In the first episode we got the reveal of Boba Fett. Then how many episodes was it afterwards that they actually had him come back?
He didn't come back for like 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that too because he just shows up in his ship, right? And I'm just like, why didn't you just jump in for the armor right there in episode 1? Because he's there in Tatooine. You don't have to chase him all over the fucking place for it. B, your ship's just been chilling there? Like, why are you still on Tatooine?
I have seen people talk about that where it's like, oh, Boba Fett just had it in mothballs for ages. He was just waiting for it. Like, why didn't you just take it from Cobb Vanth or whatever?
Yeah,
but
so there's theories on that. Like, why didn't you just go take it?
It's such quibbles.
I feel like he was waiting. Maybe I don't know. Like, there's
I feel like he was probably living on the ship.
He could have been living on the ship, but like, why not just go to that town and be like, give me my armor back? Maybe he didn't know where it was.
Or maybe he'd walked many miles away from it and had to trek back and then get a ship and then go
Yeah,
It's
no,
mass, but
I get all that, but I'm like, he could have gone into that town and fought Cobb Vanth and said, "Give me my armor back." But my theory is he didn't know where it was.
oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So, but yeah, he was probably living on a ship because you see the end of season 1 where he saves I can't remember that character's name, the sniper. She's a very cool actress whose name
Nick or something.
Yeah,
Remember?
she's like an ex, Empire sniper or something. She's really a cool character. She's gonna show up in the Bad Bunch, which if you saw it, again, if you haven't seen the Clone Wars, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, just I have very vague inklings. Like I'm aware it's like a group of clone troopers that said it's order 66.
They're like not perfect clone troopers.
Yeah.
Okay. The Bad Batch.
Isn't that
The Bad
is
Batch.
that Rex in all of them, or is that someone else?
Not Rex. There's another character that ends up being part of them because he was taken by the Empire and reconstructed, I guess. I don't know what the right word is. And then they saved him, but he's not perfect anymore. Perfect, you know.
One thought I had like just now, if he needed a way to grok, why didn't Boba Fett go after the armor ahead of time or beforehand or whatever? This also rides into my theory that Star Wars people largely don't talk to each other for some reason. Because you'd figure like, hey, like I heard stories of this guy parading around in some Mandalorian armor. That's weird. So my only theory then is like he didn't hear anything until he caught wind that someone else dressed as Mandalorian was looking for other Mandalorians, and then he was like, okay, I gotta find maybe he'll lead me to my armor.
Yeah.
Maybe he does have my armor. And then once he realized he didn't, then he thought like, well, maybe he'll lead me to what I'm looking for or something.
This will create an opportunity for me.
Yeah, it's one of those things you're just kind of like, whatever, I'll roll along with it. I don't really care.
I mean, it also feels like if you watch did you watch the Easter egg at the end of the episode?
That one?
The last episode, if you watch the Easter egg, he goes
over.
Oh
yeah, when he takes the palace and everything.
Yeah, it takes the palace, so it kind of suggests to me that he wants to stay on Tatooine, you know, and there's probably a specific reason he hasn't left. Like he's probably like, I would love to see him just blast the Sarlacc out of the water, you know, out of the sand.
I understand. The story I want to hear is how the hell Bib Fortuna did what he did. Dude, I want to know the story of Bib Fortuna being the vile gangster of Tatooine.
I mean, he was a secondhand man. He put on some weight.
Out the hut.
Yeah, he put on. I was like, damn, dude, you put on some weight.
Yeah, he was looking like a blobfish. It was amazing.
Did you notice it went the other way? Like Bib Fortuna put on weight, and the Gamorrean guards were like fit.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this shit just went the opposite way. And you know, when they were standing over the trap, I was like, you're standing on the door. But then I was like,
I thought the same thing.
Oh,
Don't stand there.
But I was like, the Rancor is dead. There's probably nothing down there but a carcass.
But I also liked that there wasn't a whole lot of, exposition there. It was just like, no, bang. That feels very true to Boba Fett. Like, nah, we don't need to talk.
Yeah. I was like, is he gonna keep him prisoner? Nope. Like for a second, I thought he was gonna take prisoners, but Andrew, do you have any other thoughts about the episode? I feel like you're just kind of hanging.
Well, y'all, I think, are much more knowledgeable than I am on all things Star Wars.
No, I mean, that's good because, like, from a perspective of someone who's not a Star Wars geek, it'd be nice to hear what you thought about you saw. I mean, I agree with Andrew that season 1 was a little slower and season 2 was a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
But like your perspective as a person who doesn't eat, sleep, and drink Star Wars the way I do. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
You said it well enough.
Okay.
Well enough.
Carrie being nice to me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't have any issues with it. I to go back to like all the fanboys and people like complaining about things being off or not being what they thought it would be or what they expected. Like I'm to the point where I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna consume this media, and unless it has like really, really like glaringly bad flaws, like it's problematic because it's, you know, like it's reinforcing some negative stereotype, or it's perpetuating something that needs to stop. Like if it's not doing that, or the story's just bad, usually I'm just like, okay, that's cool, I like this.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of my thing with all of Mandalorian, has just been like, oh cool, it's, you know, we're watching Wild West in space, and
Yep.
we're just seeing this guy in cool armor go around and be a badass. I will say that last night when I watched the second to last episode, the part at the end where he basically goes all Liam Neeson, is like, I will find you and I will kill you. Like that, that to me like made me laugh, because I was just like, oh shit, he's going all.
Well, it's the
Liam
same. It's the,
Neeson.
he fed him the
But-
same line he gave him in the first season, right? He's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you don't know how important he is to me, you know.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that's badass. You
Yeah.
know? It also
Putting
tells
that
him, I
right
know
back
where
in
you
his
are,
face.
because he sent him a message like to his
Mhm.
ship. It's literally saying, I know where you are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and I'm coming for you.
I feel like that too was a little bit like, as much as cool as that was, like 2 minutes later I was like, but doesn't he now know that you're probably after him?
Yeah, yeah. That's the secondary thought, because the first part is the coolness factor. The second
Yeah.
part is the you've lost the element of surprise factor.
Yeah, but
And
I
yet
mean,
they still had it
what
for
do
some
people
reason.
remember about Babe Ruth?
He does.
Right?
Oh, where he just pointed and then they threw him a
Yeah.
softball. They're like,
Like,
here you
this
go,
is what's
babe,
about
hit it
to
out of the
happen.
park.
Yeah.
It's just complete badass. That's the only reason they did that. It's just badass. I'm gonna call the shot. Then I'm gonna make the shot.
I
I mean-
believe my exact words after that speech, or that part in the episode when he, like, you know, sent him that message, was I was on the couch, Cadence was like passed out, my dog, and I just like was like, oh shit, Papa Mando's gonna get his ass, and I was just like,
I mean,
just
yeah. I mean, dude. I mean, I was a little upset. You know, like I agree with you on that. He gave up the element of surprise. He still got the jump on him, I think.
oh yeah.
I didn't like how he turned his back on the dude, where he's like, "Go ahead and just take the baby."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What are you
That-
doing? Don't turn your back on that dude."
I mean, when you
You knew that armor
got
could
pure
withstand.
Beskar, man.
They made it a point to tell you the dark saber could be stopped by only by pure Beskar, and they did that so you knew that armor could withhold. You know, like you knew it was gonna withhold it when the Dark Trooper was choking him and kept punching his face
Yeah.
into the
Yeah, the
wall,
wall was giving
and the
way
thing
before
wasn't
the
getting
helmet.
dented at all. And I was like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah.
Meanwhile, his face should have been turned to hamburger inside there.
I mean, he's a Mandalorian, man. Come on, he's trained for that
Little
stuff.
badass.
And you know,
Train to have his head pummeled through steel. Okay.
yes, you know.
I guess so.
I mean, I would be dizzy as hell if I took that many punches and my armor held up. I'd be surprised, but yes, your
Yeah,
head
his
would be
head-
moving
his head's-
around in there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bouncing like the dinger in a bell, just inside
And then
that
of
helmet.
course I couldn't remember for the life of me where he got the spear from. I couldn't remember that it was from the Ahsoka Tano episode. I was like, where the hell did that spear come from? I forget.
Yeah.
Like it took me for my brain did not calculate it with that Chancellor
Oh.
woman.
Yeah, from the Ashoka Tano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, where did this spear come from? How did he get the spear? Why can't I remember this basic thing?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, on that note, I don't think that they made enough callbacks to the spear. I remember thinking that in the interim. I was like, wait, it was a big deal when he got that spear, and they're not really talking about it.
well, you see
So,
him dig it out of the.
Yeah.
God-
it's
God
like the
rest his
one thing
soul,
that
the Razor
survives
Crest.
the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
just like walks over and
I
he's
was-
like,
Yeah, they see him pull it out, and he's just like, "Yeah, here's this spear, guys." You know,
Oh yeah, and a moment of silence for the Razor Crest, man. That broke
Yeah.
my heart.
dude. I was like, my friends messaged me. I was like, I was really fond of that ship.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna rebuild it, which would be amazing if he just
I don't think so.
My guess is he'll repurpose another one.
Yeah.
Because it's just basically a Empire drop ship. I forget what it is exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just a repurposed ship.
Yeah.
It's not designed for ship fights. And that's why every time he's in a dogfight with something, it's like clunky. you know, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was cool to see him in that episode where he flies away from the two TIE fighters and then falls back and just plays chicken with them basically because he's like, I got no other moves, you know.
Yeah.
It
But
was
that
cool
might
to
be
see
a fun
Fett.
element moving forward, though, to kind of give it an element of Too Fast, Too Furious, or whatever. The Fast and
I mean,
Furious
there might
movies
be
where they build these old junker cars and make them these badass hot rods, you know. So that might be a fun element of season 3.
But let's do it as pod racing.
Yes.
I mean, there might be a cooler version.
Just Star Wars Too Fast, Too Furious. Like that's all I want to see now. It's just like The Rock show up as a Star Wars character, like in pod racers.
And he's like, nah.
You really wouldn't need a lot of prosthetic work on him. He's getting alien looking as is.
I mean, that's perfect. Then you just drop him in.
Yeah, it is. That's just right.
And he shows up in a beefed up like Challenger looking pod racer.
Yeah, give him like the muscle car looking pod racer.
Yeah.
That's the series I want to see, Disney. Let's come on. I'll direct that one.
You gotta have a reason. I guarantee you, at some point they'll put pod racing in some. I mean, they kind of hint at it.
They had fan service,
Yeah.
So that's
beginning.
like, you know, they're gonna hint at things like that, and I'm guessing they will rebuild some form of the Razor Crest, and they'll probably call it the Razor Crest 2 or whatever, and it'll have, like you said, Carrie, like it'll be more.
Or it'll be the Razor Best.
Oh,
'Cause
Ooh.
Lame. Who invited this guy to the call?
Making the that $400 Razor Crest toy.
Oh my
Some-
god! Yeah,
Oh,
Hasbro's like everyone I saw when the Razor Crest blew up all over Twitter. They're like, "I'd like a refund for this shit, please."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's like partly why I'm kind of like, yeah, it's gonna come back in some way or another, just because and there's enough other fingers in the pie to be like, yeah they can't just clean swipe
It's like
away.
the Millennium Falcon. It's too cool of a icon at this point to just dump. And the Falcon itself has been damaged tons of times, and it's been rebuilt every time. It hasn't been eradicated from the sky. Yeah, it hasn't had like a fucking pulse blast, like just demolish it into dust. But you know,
That was cool.
I was like,
How did you guys like the sonic grenade in episode 7?
dude, I
That
love
was
that so
fun
much.
callback, yeah.
That was the thing that I was mentioning just a second ago. Yeah, like
Just
that,
the sound,
was
right?
cool.
Because it's like, remember the first time you saw that in episode 2, right?
Dong.
Yeah, it's like, and it like splits through everything. You're like, that's a badass bomb.
Yeah.
And he used the same method. He basically just dropped it backwards, right? You see Fett go straight vertical, and you're like, oh, this guy is. I thought it was cool that he takes off and he's already in the laid back, like I'm gonna shoot straight up position. I don't know if people notice that because he's ready to go when they called him in right, immediately, you know. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. And Carrie and I were talking about this. It was cool to see, for once, the inside of the Slave One and how you see the rotation of the two wings as people are sitting inside and it's rotating to balance out, right? You don't get to see that in the movies.
I didn't even realize that until you had mentioned something the other day offhand, Alan, and then I was watching it last night and I was like, I see the things moving. That's what Alan was talking about.
Yeah, it's the two wings on the side. So the two wings have to move up while the middle part, you know, has to balance out with it. So it's like opposites.
Yeah, it's like a little gimbal.
Yeah, it's like a little gimbal. And the whole time I was watching it, I was like, oh my God. That's because they're sitting in the seats under Fett, and Fett's sitting above them. And then under that, I think is a cargo bay, you know, put Solo in the cargo bay, you know. And then you literally get to hear him say, Fett, track to this planet. And Fett's like, got it. And you're like, this is cool. This is cool on so many levels, you know. I want to see more of that design because it doesn't exist, right? It exists to a certain degree, but now it exists a little bit more. So I'm sure someone's blueprinting it. And I'm hopeful, again, like I said, if they do a making of for season 2, somebody will show us, because I really want to see like the Falcon. You've seen multiple blueprints of what it's like to walk through the cockpit and the living quarters and everything.
Yeah.
If you saw the Solo movie, you got a little bit more of that, you know? I want that. I want to be able to live inside that space. Even if it's just to see these characters talking about going somewhere, you know? You don't have to actually sleep in it and show me how they interact with it, you know? Like,
yeah. Let's get a, what is it? The Avengers, the shawarma restaurant style scene.
Oh my God. Just sitting at the cantina.
Just like chilling in the ship, just doing something really mundane.
I mean, you get a little bit of that. That's kind of what Lucas was doing with the original Falcon, right? Where they're playing the chess game. I don't remember what it's called now. Nobody? Bueller?
No.
It was on the tip of my tongue and then I lost it. It's some dumb Star Wars name. I just know that.
All I want to call it is Wizard's Chess, and
Wizard's
that's
Chess,
just
exactly.
because
Wizard's
my
Chess
brain is
sounds
dumb.
Great. They were playing
I was
Wizard's
thinking the exact
Chess
same
on the
thing, though,
Millennium
man.
Falcon.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember what it's called?
See, that's where you can tell I'm a '90s baby because my reference was to Harry Potter and not to Star Wars.
Dejarik. It's called Dejarik.
Oh, that's right.
See,
So
Wizard's Chess just
Dejarik
rolls
is the
right
chess
off the
game.
tongue.
It really
And
does.
Sabak, I believe, is a card game, which one of my friends.
Have they
picked me
made
up.
that card game yet?
Yeah, my friend just picked it up for me when he just went to
It
Disney
actually
like a week
exists.
ago, and he sent me a photo of Sabak or Sabak. I don't know how to say it properly, but I think it's Sabak. And he sent me
You
a photo.
calling yourself a real fan?
Listen, I'm wearing the limited edition shirt. I got the tat right there.
Are you gatekeeping now? Are you saying that I have to have that to?
I mean, you could have at
Be a
least worn a
real
shirt,
fan?
man. You could have at least worn a shirt.
Yeah.
Like Carrie represents. There it is.
I don't think I have a Star Wars shirt.
Don't show us your tattoo, Carrie.
I don't think
Well,
I own.
I didn't know. I usually don't wear the shirt for the topic I'm talking about, but in this case, I was like, this was part of Star Wars Celebrations, and I remember my friend Greg and I waited in line for like 3 hours last year to get in there, and no, it was the year before. Yeah, the year before.
Mhm.
No, it was last year. This Violet turned 2. By the way, Violet turned 2 today. So
Happy
it was,
birthday!
yeah, it was last year when she was only 3 months old. And I remember I waited 3 hours to get in that line. I got into the shop, and people ransacked the place. So I bought. Some people went straight. I should have done what these other people did, which was just go grab one of every shirt, and then decide on what you want. Right? Don't be like, do I want that one? Do I want this one? No, you want them all. And then you go off to the side and make your decisions, right? Like you literally want to fill your basket with everything in this store because it's all like, even this cup was from that. They're all like exclusives, right?
That's
And
cool.
I'm always afraid to use this cup because I'm afraid I'm gonna drop it one day and break it, and you probably can't get it anywhere except Celebration or eBay, and But the shirt I couldn't get; it was gone. But they did a cool thing where they gave us like a month later. They sent us all an email saying, we know that everything ran out, and we know you guys waited in line forever because it was in the middle of like March. It was like winter months, and you had choices to make. You had to go into the show and enjoy the show, or wait in this line for 3 or 4 hours, and half your day is gone, right? So they gave us a secondary option of ordering a bunch of stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna get all the shirts. I got like 3 or 4 shirts. I didn't get them all because that would be bananas. Nobody needs them all, but. Just remember that next time you're in line. Go in that area.
Pokemon fans would argue differently.
I mean, yeah, of course. Because you got to catch them all.
Exactly.
So, like, yeah, if you're in Celebration and you get a chance to go in that store, go straight for the shirts and grab them all. There is a button-up shirt I wish I had grabbed a medium of. It's too big. Everything runs large in there. But, yeah, these shirts were like... And this is before the show even came out. I literally was like... That looks like a cool shirt. It looks like a cool Mandalorian. Like, that's why it took me forever to make that decision, right? Because I did that dumb thing where I was staring at the shirt for a minute, and then they had a small left, and this body doesn't wear smalls. But lesson learned. And of course, the show comes out, and it's fucking amazing because we're talking about it. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else about that episode that really like stood out for me. I was trying to figure out why they didn't just wipe. They obviously didn't kill Moff Gideon,
Right?
Because he's going to be a repeat character.
I was going to say, why would you kill off Giancarlo Esposito? Use that motherfucker in everything as much as you can.
He dies in everything.
Yeah, because he's good. He's great. He's a great villain.
Did you see that? I think it was on Twitter. His granddaughters had messaged him like saying something like, please don't kill the baby Yoda or something, and he was just like, I'm going to squash that green bugger the second I get my hands on him or something.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think it was the very last episode. I think it was like the second to last episode. Like my wife and I both said, like, man, it's fucking dark to like have some baby shackles on hand. Or to even
Yeah.
make shackles that fit like a little baby. Like how fucking ruthless do you have to be?
I think they were
Yeah.
designed to suppress his force abilities.
Oh, they probably would. It's just the fact is like, yeah, we're gonna make like we have all these normal shackles. Make a set just for him, tiny
Yeah.
little baby ones.
Well,
How
that's
fucking cool
right
would
when
you
he's
have to be
like,
to
get
be
the
like,
put his
I-
hands in
like,
shackles.
Specifically, I want baby shackles.
Tiny little baby one.
Where he's like, put the shackles on him, and you're like, shackles.
So does
I-
anybody know what they're going to do with the blood?
I
They
feel like
were-
they're using it for the clones.
Clones, you think?
The Emperor's clones, like, cause you see.
Oh, right.
Because you remember they're on the huge facility that exploded on the planet with his Cara Dune's Cara Dune and all those characters.
Yeah.
But when they're in that facility and for the first time you see that doctor coming up and you see they're like, this is not a mining facility. And there's like 15 or 20 of these things in the tubes in the vessels. They look like the clones you see at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Right. With a Snook clones, but in my head, I feel like those were. If you've read the books, you know the Emperor has clones of himself. Those look like the clones. My theory is that.
I really hope they don't go that way. I can kind of see them taking that tact for some reason or another. What I first thought it would be was probably that going back to the Dark Trooper thing. It's them trying to.
Right.
On that, where it's kind of like, hey, we couldn't figure out with the humans initially, so we defaulted to robots. But robots kind of suck. Your best bet is C-3PO in the best of circumstances here, and look at him. He's
the best bet.
He's the best bet.
Or okay,
of all the ones you could have
I'll
picked.
give you something a little better. Like IG-88. All right.
There you go.
Okay. A little bit better, but still, it's kind of like, robots kind of suck. And if you're Star Wars, I don't know, you're maybe illiterate and you don't know how to make half of this tech anyway. At least that's the implication.
Well, the closest thing you're gonna get to. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I kind of like the idea where it's them trying to basically do like a Captain America sort of thing, where you're trying to give normal schlubs force powers because you're trying to make a race of Supermen, so you can have your Dark Troopers be who they are. And I can see that being a thing later on where it's like, all right, Mando's already taken out like a robot one. And yet, even though there's still enough of a threat, would a bunch of people get trapped into an airlock? Probably not. Not like robots.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the closest we've gotten to like an android or a robot with force abilities is Vader.
I don't even think they're going to be like.
Human.
I don't even think like if it was going down that path, I don't think it's even going to be like a android of some kind or like a robot or whatever. It'll just be purely like, hey, we took some humans and we juiced them up.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they're a bigger threat because they have force powers, or even like some amount of force power.
I don't know I feel like that's not a bad route to go. I just don't know if they'll do it. I really do feel like they're going to be like, these are being used for the Emperor's clones because that's the easy way out.
Yeah.
I really hope it's not that. If for the same reason, like I don't need to see Skywalker in a thing again.
I mean, you're also gonna see. They also hinted at Thrawn, so
They didn't hint, but man, they said it.
they
Grand
said
Admiral
it. But
Thrawn,
like,
they
if
said
they're gonna put him in, I can't remember 100% of his storyline, but I guarantee you, like, this is all gonna come back into play.
Now, I guess is he going to be more in the Ashoka?
My guess is he's gonna be in the Ahsoka series and not so much the Mandalorian. Like,
Probably so.
Like introducing her was a way of saying she does exist in this universe. Here's her series. She'll probably make a comeback somewhere in the Mandalorian, but again, they're gonna sprinkle those characters in. They don't want to overuse her in that series. They want to focus on her own. Same thing with Fett. They did a good job of bringing him in this series, and it's basically fans losing their fucking minds when they saw him. So they're like, cool. The response is great. Let's greenlight this show and get going. You know,
they're just doing the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Star Wars now, where it's like,
I mean, Favreau set
they
that
show
up
up,
too, right?
They show up in somebody else's movie for like a little bit, and they're like a side character, and then they're like, but they're gonna get their own movie over here, and then they're gonna have their own characters that pop up in this movie that their sidekick characters in.
I mean, that's what Favreau is the one who first gave us Iron Man, and he did that with Black Widow and all that. It's like he's like, shit worked over there. It's gonna
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
over here. You know. And,
Yeah.
Works for me.
And I said this before, but Filoni is literally like the Oracle. So
Yeah.
with that dude at the helm, like you can't go wrong with that guy. He knows his lore. I've spoken about. Lucas used to have a guy they called Oracle that would proof all the books and all the games.
It's so
and
dramatic.
That was his job. Like if you
This
wrote
guy
a-
is the Oracle.
if
Like,
you wrote a
does this
book-
guy sit in
all
a
the
dark
books-
room with a fucking like Jedi
yeah, like
hood
Vader,
on
and it just
the
comes
whole
down
time?
on him, right? It just closes in on him. No, his job was, if you wrote a book, his job was to research your book, read it, and be like, continuity is wrong here, timeline is off here, this character's not born yet, all those things. And I don't know what level of geek that is. That's an Oracle level of geek. You know,
Savant.
like that dude is a Jedi master if he can remember all that. Because I'd be like, because even on these calls, we're like, I don't remember. You know, like,
Yeah.
because that's the level of geek I am. But Filoni, if you hear him talk, like he knows all this stuff.
Yeah.
He knows the what do you call it? What's canon? He knows what's non-canon. He's trying to bring non-canon stuff into the canon world, which is brilliant, and he's doing it slowly so he can get away with it. Because if you do it too quickly, Disney's gonna be like, no, we made this stuff non-canon. But if you're like, check it out, I introduced a little bit of it, and the fans love it. Disney's like,
Yeah.
more money
Exactly.
in our pockets, keep it going. I'm not a big fan of Disney, but I am happy that they're doing these shows. There's a Kenobi show coming out. You know, there's gonna be. Why not? Why not?
Cassian
You know?
Andor.
I swear to God, in Kenobi, if he doesn't say hello there, I'm gonna lose my damn mind.
I mean, he's gonna do his lightsaber spin with the hand out move. You know,
Yeah.
it's his signature like Kenobi go-to move. So,
Like,
and you're gonna get him living on Tatooine. My guess is at some point he will also interact with Fett. You know,
Maybe.
well, no,
I just
Kenobi
never
is
have
no Kenobi's
But
already.
if the series is just him inside his house eating a bowl of porridge or something, I would laugh.
This has got to be. It's got to be
Or just
before.
like,
the mundane, like, average life of.
I mean,
yeah,
nothing
he's already.
happens.
Kenobi.
Just like,
Kenobi's already dead by return, so it's got to be.
He
before
picks
New
up
Hope.
like pottery, and we see him like try pottery for a little bit. He gets
Yeah.
mad, and, like Force throws it across the room.
I mean, that's what he's
now
got to use his lightsaber for
checking the
something.
calendar and realizing like, oh shit, I need to go meet up with Luke.
Yeah.
So, like, my guess is he's gonna be He's gonna be keeping an eye on a young Luke, obviously, because
Yeah.
Kenobi is after Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's in between, isn't it?
It's basically it's in between Revenge of the Jedi and A New Hope. It might actually be right after the Revenge of the Jedi. I think it's gonna be right after because they also cast Hayden Christensen to play Vader, or
Mhm.
because it's literally after he becomes Vader in Revenge of the Jedi. So my guess is it's gonna be when Vader goes down to hunt Jedis, because that's what happens when he's Vader. He hunts down all the Jedis. So carries back. I was saying how they cast Hayden Christensen too in Kenobi's show.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be.
I'm kind of.
I don't mind him. I
do.
Andrew Sides and I were talking about this, how we hate
He's
it.
not bad.
He's a lot of people hate his acting, and I was like, he's not a bad actor. He had a bad director. Like, it's not his fault. Lucas was such a shitty director that he couldn't act to his scene, because the director was just like, "That's good, let's go with it." And in your head, you're like, "I don't know, my pants weren't on yet," you know, like, you know.
It's Lucas. Lucas does not. He has a history of not being a good character director.
He's not.
Ever.
And that,
Even in, like the original trilogy, like lots of reports where it was just no one liked working with him because of that.
I mean,
it was
if you ask
frustrating.
people what's their
at
favorite,
least.
out of the original three, if you ask people which was their favorite movie out of the original three, like 8 out of 10 times it's going to be Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And the next one on that list will be Return of the Jedi, and A New Hope will be last, because A New Hope is the one that George Lucas directed.
I don't. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why I said 8 out of 10, because you might go
Yeah.
the
8
other
out
way.
of 10.
I gave
I
a very
remember-
generous number on that.
I remember when the prequels, because like when the prequels first came out, like a lot of those actors, that was kind of the first time I had seen them in things. So
Harrison Ford was a carpenter on the set, man. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like,
well, no, not the original trilogy, like the prequels. Like when I first saw those, I was kind of like, "Who are these people? Are so terrible. I don't understand it." And it was only later on, once I saw them in other things, I realized, oh, they're not terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
They got really bad direction.
Yeah.
Because like
It's
if you
like-
look at it, like Natalie Portman's a great actress, but Ewan
Yeah.
McGregor's the
Maybe
only
there's
one who
people-
was like, I'm just gonna do it my way.
Yeah.
Which I wish the other actors would have done too. Just been like, nah, I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this my way. But he, maybe he had a larger presence when he was filming. But on a quick side note, because I just had a random thought before we end. They're gonna have to bring Darth Maul into this at some point because Maul is still alive, in the Ahsoka storyline. Wait a minute, he might be dead.
Doesn't Kenobi kill him at some point?
Kenobi
Like-
kills
like
him
not
in
in
the
the
Rebel
prequels, like
storyline.
in-
It all
like
depends
later
on
on.
where the storyline is with Kenobi at this point, because he kills him in the Rebel storyline
Yeah.
in the stupidest fight ever. But it's supposed to be a sign.
It's Star Wars. They'll bring him back.
I remember Filoni was explaining it as like, if you ever watch the old, who's the guy that did the Seven Samurais? Kurosawa's. Like they never like when the sword fights were never like as long as a lightsaber duel. It was like one chop and you got that killing blow in, and that's kind of what Kenobi does to Maul. Maul went high when he should have gone low. It's a whole Rufio situation. He went high when he should have gone low. It went straight through his chest. So
He lied about the high ground.
if anyone gets that reference, I feel bad for
He'll
Rufio.
come back with his head sewn onto an AT-AT or something.
Oh
Yeah.
God! I mean, they brought Maul back he's half robot, basically, because he got chopped in half, right? There's a whole thing about how strong he is with the dark side of the Force, and that's why we can get into that later. But we're past an hour, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Thanks for waking up early and getting on the show with me, guys. Andrew, I'm sorry if you didn't have as much fun as the rest of us.
No, it was good. It was good.
I wanted you on
very
here-
outclassed in terms of my knowledge.
I didn't want you to feel outclassed. I wanted you on here on purpose because I wanted that. Like I wanted. Carrie and I are big Star Wars geeks, as you can tell. So I knew Carrie and I were going to agree on a lot of stuff and disagree on very few things. Whereas Andrew Sides, I knew was very opinionated because him and I get into conversations online, which I really enjoy because I'm always like, that's a good thought. Like sometimes I'm very one-sided in the way I think about things. Where then like when we're talking about the acting and the directors and all that, like. We came to a point where you're like, yeah, George Lucas sucks. As a director, he's a great idea man. Like he's just not a good director. Like he literally should just be making up ideas and saying, "You direct it because you're really good." There's a reason Steven Spielberg directs all the Indiana Jones. Yeah, Spielberg's like,
it
"I
really
got you, buddy."
Quick, like little thought on that. It really makes me wonder. Like, I really wish I could see. It doesn't exist at this point. I really wish I could see what the original cut was of Star Wars: A New Hope.
Oof.
Because it's allegedly nigh unwatchable.
Yeah, supposedly his art director, I believe, who was also his wife at that time.
His
director of
wife was the
photography.
editor.
The editor. Okay, she did the original. She was the one who sat there and like spliced it and put it together.
She cut it together. Her and Francis Ford Coppola. I think those were the two that basically they both came to Lucas and was like, you gotta like change things around. Like this isn't working. This isn't working. This isn't working. And after the first cut, it was so poorly received. Like they didn't even do like a test screening. It was just internal. Like everyone was like, "Yeesh, this is really bad." And then Marsha Lucas, who was his wife at the time, said, "Let me take it. I think I can work it something around with it."
And she still didn't fix the 6-second lightsaber blip in the Vader Kenobi fight. So, on that note, I'm gonna be sore about that till the day they fix it.
And yet they make all other random edits to it. Makes no sense.
Right? I don't get it. But okay, well, hopefully I can have you guys on again to talk about something else. I'm sure we'll pick a topic. Thanks for anyone who was watching us today. Again, this is Panicle Podcast for Geeks. I will do my best to be on every Saturday. Normally it's 10:30, 11:30. Today we have run over time. We started 30 minutes early because it's my kid's birthday and I gotta go. So I'm gonna take us off live. Give me a second here.